Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will talk about the future team recommendations built around Hoshiumi and Hirugami. These two players are very good characters, especially when it comes to the blocking aspect. In addition, Hoshiumi is also an excellent power spike type player. One of his main advantages as a blocker is his ability to apply debuffs to the opponent, reducing their spike power. Meanwhile, Hirugami is a middle blocker who has a buff skill that enhances the abilities of his allies every time a rally continues or whenever an ally jumps to block. His skill Resonance 2 adds even more buffs, and his skill Resonance 4 introduces a debuff skill that targets the opponent, making him a highly versatile player who can perform well in any situation. Their Bond skill is also strong. It increases Hoshiumi's main parameters and boosts the block of allies positioned in the front row. At the start of a match, Hoshiumi's all-rounder and Hirugami's solid block effects are automatically replenished. This Bond skill effect provides a valuable team-wide block buff, making both of them perfect for block-type teams. However, since Hoshiumi is also a power spike type, he can also fit perfectly in a power-type lineup as well. Alright, now let's move on to the recommended future lineups built around Hoshiumi and Hirugami. Let's start with the power spike team first. Currently, there are two great power spike setters available, which gives us two good lineup options if you plan to use Korai primarily as a power spiker. The first option is Oikawa. He is currently one of the best power type setters and is widely used in top-tier lineups on the Japanese server. Oikawa can give an instant boost to one of his teammates positioned diagonally or opposite to him. This buff increases awareness, reflex, and base stats by 30%, which is extremely beneficial for Korai as it supports both his offensive and defensive capabilities. Even though our players generally have lower base stats compared to SP players, this buff from Oikawa helps Korai reach a similar level of performance to other SP members. Of course, if you use SP Oikawa, the next natural pick would be SP Uezumi. Although SP Uezumi is more of a receiver type since his ultimate skill focuses on receiving, he also provides an additional buff that increases critical power. In this case, Oikawa offers critical rate, ensuring that critical attacks occur more often, while SP Uezumi increases the critical power when those attacks land. Next, we have SP Ashijima, which is a very obvious choice. He has deployment bonds with both Oikawa and Uezumi, and he's simply one of the most powerful power-type players in the game. For the middle blocker position, you can add SP Tendo. Even though we can't fully see all of his skills and bonds yet, we know that he has a deployment bond with SP Ashijima, making him a great addition to the lineup. For the libero, I recommend SP Nishinoya, because his skill Resonance 4 can reduce the cooldown of one teammate's power spike skill. He can also shorten the toss skill cooldown of your team's setter, which is a huge advantage for a setter like SP Oikawa who relies heavily on his ultimate toss skill. You can also consider using SP hqanime, since he can provide additional stamina recovery for the entire team. Along with SP Uezumi's skill Resonance 2, the team's stamina recovery rate will be even higher. This is very beneficial for Hoshiumi, who relies on multiple skills that activate during both offense and defense. With hqanime's support, the other middle blocker position can be more flexible depending on your strategy. If you plan to use Komori and Sakusa in Oikawa's lineup, the overall setup will lean more towards a receive-oriented team. For the middle blocker, you can use SP One, who synergizes well with Sakusa, or SP Kuru, who also functions as both a middle blocker and a receive type. This allows you to build a lineup that mixes power and receive elements effectively. Next, let's move on to a morale-based team led by SP Akashi as the setter. This lineup works very well for teams that rely on morale boosts. Akashi can provide a significant awareness boost based on his own awareness stat, particularly when the spiker is a power spike type. This greatly increases the chance of triggering critical spikes. The next obvious member is SP Bakuto, who can provide morale boosts to the team. With more morale boosts, the toss power from Akashi will increase. However, since SP Bakuto's ultimate skill can only be used when Team Morale Awakening is active, the other spiker in this team we can consider is SP Ashijima. SP Ashijima can reduce his own ultimate cooldown quickly, which helps maintain offensive momentum even when the team's Morale Awakening is inactive. This also allows Korai to conserve stamina. For the middle blocker position, SP One is a perfect fit, as he can boost team morale both through his ultimate skill and his deployment bond with Akashi. Another great alternative is SP Tendu, since there's already SP Ushijima in this lineup, and they will work very well together. For the Libero, you can choose between Komori or SP Nishinoya. However, since this lineup depends heavily on morale boosts for maximum performance, Komori is the preferred option because he can provide additional morale recovery. You can also include Sakusa, who has a deployment bond that increases the team's receive capability. This buff will significantly improve Bakudo's receive performance. If you decide to include Sakusa, your middle blocker should remain Espion, who continues to support both blocking and morale boosting. Next, let's move on to the blocker-focused team for Hoshiumi. As mentioned earlier, Hoshiumi and Hirugami will perform best when surrounded by teammates who also have block skills. The team-wide block increase from their deployment effects will further strengthen the team's defensive potential. For the setter, you can choose between Sugawara and Koganagawa. If you use Sugawara, the lineup will be more balanced between receive and block, because Sugawara can provide buffs for both aspects. Other members you can add are SP Tsukishima and SP Kuru, since both of them can apply debuffs that reduce the opponent's spike power just from their deployment bonds. Hirugami's skill also helps improve Kuru's receive ability when there's no Libero on the field. However, since this lineup has fewer offensive options, you can include SP Ushijima to cover that gap. For the Libero, you can once again use SP Nishinoya, whose skill resonance can reduce the cooldown of your team's ultimate spike and toss skills. He also has a useful deployment bond with Sugawara. You can also replace SP Ushijima with SP hqanime, as hqanime's passive skill can reduce his own ultimate cooldown, providing more offensive options. When paired with Sugawara, the team benefits from stamina recovery from both players, allowing them to last longer during matches. If you want a lineup that focuses even more on block power, then you should use Koganagawa as the setter and Espion as the main middle blocker. Their deployment bond ensures that when the team uses serve skills, the serves will not miss, which is very beneficial for both Korai and Hirugami. In addition, since both Aon and Koganagawa have naturally high block stats, the debuff effect from Hoshiumi becomes even stronger because it scales based on the team's block stats. By combining Korai, Hirugami, Aon, and Koganagawa, your team's overall block ability will increase highly. You can still keep hqanime in this team, as he also has a deployment bond with Koganagawa, which increases the team's block stat and boosts the team's overall stat. hqanime also serves as a good offensive option for a team with limited attackers. However, you can replace him with SP Tsukishima, who also has a deployment bond with Koganagawa. This bond increases team block and provides a debuff to the opponent's backline, reducing their spike power. The advantage of using SP Tsukishima is the added defensive debuff effect, but the drawback is that his ultimate skill has a longer cooldown compared to hqanime's. This means the team's offense might take longer to build up during extended rallies. So, those are all the lineup options and recommendations that you can build around Hoshiumi and Hirugami. It's also possible to create a receive-type lineup, but since Korai performs best at the front line through his ultimate and block skills, the most effective setups for these two players are definitely power-type and block-type teams. If you have your own lineup ideas or different combinations you'd like to share, feel free to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.